Hi guys, I'm just E, but that is my stage name. I want to introduce myself today as Elise, and I wanted to bring myself out as a more natural, raw version of me, not the glammed up just E side of me, and bring you a documentary to show raw sides of awesome people with positive vibes. There's so much negativity going on in the world today. There's so many things and so many reasons for us to stay looking at the negative side of things. Even some of the jokes that go around today that make us laugh and smile feed off of something negative and hurt somebody else in the process sometimes. So I just wanted to put a video series out there of people who are positive people putting out positive vibes for no other reason than to just be positive. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys love the people that you meet and you can relate to them, and maybe potentially they'll inspire you to stay positive, especially in the world that we're living in right now. So once again, this is just E, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey everybody, I'm Zena Pina, the Serpent King, and I dance and stuff, and sometimes that's with fire.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. So, I think I talked to you a little bit about it, but most of this is just wanting to get to know you as a person and getting to hear about you as your personality and everything else in between.
Aw, thanks baby girl.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with my 3 questions.
Sure.
Everybody has some form of inspirations and desires, things that drive them and make them feel good about themselves, and I guess my first question would be what makes you tick?
Okay, so what inspires me, honestly, is the potential that we have in the world and the potential that we have as a life, as people. But the hardest thing is to harness that potential and to really take it by the reins, everything that we could want or need, we have right here. But the hardest thing is to actually make that happen, because that's exactly what it is, us making it happen for ourselves. And that's a very difficult process a lot of the time. But that is the thing that inspires me the most, I'd say, is just the potential that we could be living up to.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I could totally understand. I hope people could understand and get that point of view that despite everything that could be going on in the world, we have potential to make things better. We have the potential to wake up and see we're not at that point where we can't go back yet. And
right.
We can't start making those
It's never
things.
too late.
Yeah, it's never
It feels
too
like it is oftentimes. I'm feeling that hardcore right now, but I know that's false information and silly thinking, and it's never too late.
It's never too late. I love it.
Thanks.
Okay. The world we live in, I feel like we're constantly getting things shoved down our faces, on what we could like or should like and what could be and should be. And, it's so easy to get lost in this ideal image of how we think things would be, not realizing, that we never really know how things are going to be, and things could be just as good or as bad as anything else.
Yeah.
And I guess my main thing is when you're in this quest to kind of find those things to make you feel good, and you're in the quest of just kind of seeing all these things shoved at you, what keeps you grounded and what keeps you making you make those decisions that are best for you and aren't just, that impulse decision or that moment of oh, I know that would feel really good, but in the long run, it's not who I want to be. How do you keep yourself grounded and stop yourself from kind of getting drawn into the madness that we have today?
How I keep myself grounded is love. And so that can come in many forms, that doesn't necessarily mean the love from another person. Yes, that's a very helpful and beautiful, wonderful thing to have and very helpful, but it doesn't have to come from another person. For me, it can, and I hope for everybody, it can come from a place of self-love. And for me, that grounds myself in reassuring myself of who I am and what I am and why I love myself.
Yeah.
And I can feel gratitude and I can feel love by something that I do mechanically.
Yeah.
It's by dancing.
Huh.
So, and dancing for me doesn't have to have music to inspire it. It can just be an idea in my head that makes me move to no music. But also it's very easy for me, especially these days, to feel dance via music, because in the music scene out here, it's really beautiful and wonderful, and it's so easy for me to just like tune into any of like my friends in the scene and hear their music, and honestly that makes me feel so much love, is hearing their music particularly.
Aw.
So like I'm not just saying that, and like that
Yeah.
really does make me feel a lot of love.
I love that.
So if I'm trying to like ground myself or like bring up my mood for the day, I'll just turn on one of my friends from the music scene, and I'll instantly just feel that love and that gratitude, just have that sound in the world, and my body will express the love however it does.
As a musician, I can totally understand that and appreciate that, especially
Yeah.
since having it be local musicians that you actually know, so you know the background story personally, and you've had them speak to you, and you've heard the emotion personally from their heart, and in their own tonalities, and I totally could understand why that would hit you harder, than some random artist that you like just because of, it's been shoved in your face.
Right. I
You
mean,
know?
it's really both. And like, even if it's someone who's local who I like don't know on a great personal level, and I
Yeah.
don't know the story behind it, that still does it for me too, just because I'm there to witness them expressing themselves, and like I'm seeing, especially if it's live, and even just like hearing their tracks after having seen it live, it still brings it back mentally for you, of like you seeing their fingers pluck those strings and producing those sounds, you seeing their face while they're producing those sounds, and like their body language and their tone of voice, everything. Like the eyes is a big thing for me, or like people's smiles. Like I love the smiles on people's faces. There's a few particular people who I'm thinking of here too in the scene, when they are playing their instrument, because like that's when I feel the love that they're feeling for what they're doing in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's what inspires me tremendously and makes me feel that love. And then like suddenly I'm just like, I don't know, my body's doing things that I didn't know that it was about to do.
I love it. I totally love it. I fucking love it. That's awesome.
So I love it. I love them. I love
Yeah,
music. I
that's
love
good.
dancing. That's my thing. That grounds me.
Music makes the world go round.
It does. Happy to have it.
Yeah, and it's important for everyone to have that one thing that grounds them, and that's the thing. That's what's beautiful about that, is it's simple, and that's really what something grounding needs to be, is something really simple, and it doesn't take a lot of effort, a lot of energy. It doesn't take a lot of thought process. It's something that you can do in a blink of an eye or in a drop of a dime.
With our technology today, especially.
Exactly, because of the fact that, we set these really big goals for us that aren't as easily achievable, even if it's something as cooking.
Yeah.
You could be like somebody who's trying to cook, and I know I set really big goals when I cook, and sometimes I'm like, I thought I could handle all this, and I cannot. So, and then I'm like, all right, I have to take a step back and say, okay, well, we'll try doing just the vegetables today, and then we'll move on to next week and add
Right.
something else,
Yeah.
So, and that's why I'm happy you had, I love your answer, I really do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Nobody goes without hardship. I feel like, everybody goes through obstacles and goes through, walls that they need to climb and mountains that they need to get over to be able to become a better person and to learn and to become stronger. And they don't always have to be like negative or sad or any specific, tied to any one specific thing. But I think that sometimes when you're wrapped up in your own hardship or your own being, it's hard to sometimes see other people's hardships. And it becomes very easy to just kind of look at somebody else and say, hey, I'm going through my stuff right now. I can't focus on you. And I think that sometimes we feel bad about doing that, but I think that if we all took time to do that more and focus on our own stuff and get through our own stuff, I think that would really help us grow. And I don't think that we should be mad at each other for doing it. I think we should encourage each other from doing it and make it clear that we're just there, they need us, and vice versa. And have you ever been through a hardship, or what has been your biggest hardship that you've been through, would you say, where, you had to kind of take a step back and say, I need to take time for myself, and you learned and you grew and you became a better person in your mind?
Okay. Well, all right. So this is kind of like a loaded question for me. To sum it up, I guess I would call my life a hardship. I mean, that sounds really cheesy,
No, it's
and
okay.
it sounds like very melodramatic and all that jazz. But like,
Not at all.
like just every step of the way, though,
Yeah.
like there's always been hardship after hardship. But those things are all just learning processes that I'm grateful for now. I actually kind of now I just kind of look at my life, and I like to call it a beautiful tragedy that I love to read.
Nice. I like that.
Thank you. So instead of talking about any past hardships or anything, I'm going to bring up like my current biggest hardship, I would say. I guess it's kind of like two things, but they're wrapped in together. I guess like my biggest problem is that I was always too distracted in my life by life to work on myself. I didn't ever have the opportunity to. It was always a hardship after a hardship,
Yep. I've
wrapped up in other hardships. And as soon as one ended, I would go running to the next one, and whatever it be. And I never had the opportunity to look at myself and work on myself. And I also moved out when I was 16. So I've been a workaholic ever since then, and I'm 31 now. And so even with like the things I was going through in life, time after time, at the same time, I also was constantly working myself to the bone with multiple jobs, 7 days a week, nonstop. And just to keep a roof over my head and my car insurance paid and a phone.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe feed myself once in a while on the breaks that I never took. And I was always distracted. My biggest distraction was bad boyfriends. I was always distracted thoroughly by bad boyfriends. And this combination of things just kept me from being able to develop my own self and well-being and really experience that there is anything to life at all.
Yeah.
Because I was always just too wrapped up in everything else that was happening around me, and a lot of it was my own fault, of course. So it is what it is. But I guess that'd be like my biggest hardship now, is that now that I finally have taken a breather, I've finally learned through my thick skull some hard lessons that took way too many years to sink in with people. And now I'm at a different stage in my life where I can actually like sit back and soak in life and experience what life is like and what real people are like decent people.
Yeah.
And soak in music and soak in love.
Aw.
And because I have that opportunity to do that now, that's also giving me the opportunity to be able to look back and recognize what I did.
Yeah.
And I've wasted so much time.
Yeah.
But all I can do now is learn from that, like with everything else, and move forward. And here's the like second part that goes into that. My biggest hardship right now is that, and this actually kind of rounds back to my first answer to you. It rounds back to the hardest thing, making things happen for yourself. Like I mentioned before, life is full of potential, and everything that you want or could need is there for you to take it. You just have to make it happen. And that's the hardest thing, is making that happen. And right now, I am my own worst enemy, and I am doing a really poor job at making anything happen for myself.
Aww.
And so I'm stuck in my own little rut about it, and I'm trying to crawl my way out, but my nails keep breaking, and I'm slipping down, but you know.
Okay. Well, then that's a kind of an awesome lead into the next surprise question, which is really, really easy. During all of this, what motivates you? What's your biggest motivation?
My biggest motivation? My biggest motivation that keeps me going in life, honestly, is that there is a whole big wide world out there for me to see.
Okay, I love that.
Thank you. Like I haven't been outside of my own country yet. And I'm 31 years old and I haven't been outside of my own country yet. What excuses do I have?
Yeah.
What excuses do I have? Like, I mean, my goal in life, or like what I want to get out of life, is experiences. And I can't get all the experiences that you can experience in one place. So I want to see as much of the world as I possibly can before I die. And I want to share in so many beautiful, amazing experiences with many people who I meet along the way and may never even see again.
Yeah.
And I want to like have that memory with those people forever.
Yeah.
So I guess like that is kind of that's my motivation.
Well, that's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a great one.
Thank you.
Awesome sauce. Well, I thank you again so much for sitting down with me.
Thanks so much for having me here. Hi, I'm Zena, and I'm human.
Hi, my name is Nikki Bear, and I identify myself as a pansexual transgender woman. I am proud to be, and I am living life. My favorite color is purple. My favorite animal is a panda, and I love to watch scary movies. And I love to play video games.
Thank you.
Of course.
I love it. You know, the first thing I wanted to talk about is how everybody has like their own inspirations and their own desires. Everybody has things that influence them and that drive them. And you know, I was curious to know what makes you tick.
I am extremely motivated by strong women because as a woman myself, that's something that empowers me. Someone of my own gender who has been through the struggle, who has been through the experience, and when they talk, it motivates me. It motivates me to keep going. It motivates me to get stronger. It motivates me to be better. Like, I especially look up to women of color. They especially know the struggle. They have been through more struggle than anyone else, and they are someone to look up to. Like fellow trans women, especially trans women of color. Trans women of color are the most targeted human beings on this planet.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that.
They're murdered on the daily. It's not only a discrimination against their gender, it's a discrimination against their race too. And when these women speak, and they are powerful and they're fierce because they are done being treated the way they are.
Yeah.
And they want things to change. So that's why I look up to strong women. I look up to strong women of color. I look up to strong trans women and trans women of color.
Oh, I love it. We need more people like that.
Absolutely.
In this world, more strong-willed people who are willing to fight for the right thing and not really go necessarily by social norms or what people say they should do, but what feels right and doesn't hurt anybody in the long run.
Absolutely. Like,
You know.
being a trans woman, like, I don't see what the big deal is, because it's not going to make you lose your house. It's not going to make you lose your kids. It's not going to make your girlfriend or boyfriend break up with you. You're not going to lose your job. I might lose my job due to being trans.
Yeah.
But you won't.
Yeah.
My life does not affect anyone else's but my own.
Exactly. And that's the problem, is people don't realize that, you know, what you choose to do with your life is never going to affect anybody else. What you choose to put out into the world is what will affect other people.
Absolutely.
You know, so, you know, and I think people kind of confuse that sometimes, because what you put out to the world isn't always who you are. There are people who are hurting on the inside and they have giant smiles on, and there's people who have giant who are hurting on the outside, but on the inside they're actually getting a lot of what they are asking for without even realizing it. You know what I mean? So, you know, I definitely I can relate to that, and to the sense of having a strong figure in your life and having to understand how important it is to have someone to look up to and to keep you motivated and keep you going.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy you have that.
Like, my mother is a very strong woman. My grandma, or my nanny, is a very strong woman. My Aunt Gina is one of the strongest women I know.
Yes.
And I look up to especially these three women.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people look up to celebrities and all these higher up people. I'm looking up to people who are my blood.
Yeah.
Well, my Aunt Gina isn't my blood, but
Yeah.
I like family.
Yes.
Like, that's what it's all about.
And I love that. I love that your main focus is what's right in front of you, because that's what's going to affect you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I've met your mother, and she's very hospitable.
Oh, I thank you very much.
Very wonderful woman. Okay, so something that I wanted to touch on is that the world that we live in, we are in a very fast-paced world. we get a lot of things shoved in us at all times, you know, what we should want, what we could have. And, you know, I was wondering, when you have all these things shoved into your face, when you're searching for your form of happiness and you have all these things telling you what could make you happy, how do you stay grounded and keep yourself from getting lost in the world of the entertainment and the drama and the things that really aren't very, they're not going to matter in the long run?
Absolutely. Like, how I stay grounded is I don't listen to what anyone says. I know that sounds bad, but like, if it's like advice and it's advice I need, of course I'm going to take it. But if someone's telling me, oh, this is what you could do to make yourself happier, this is what you could do for this, and I'm not going to listen, because I know what makes me happy, and I know myself better than anybody else.
Yes. Yeah, that's like the perfect answer in my opinion when it comes to the fact that the only person you can ever rely on is yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, and I actually think that that's a great point to make, is that when you're trying to keep yourself grounded, instead of trying to find it in something else, and, you know, yes, it's easy to find it in something else, but to find it in yourself is a very strong, powerful thing.
Thank you.
And I actually admire that, and I hope to be that one day myself.
Of course.
Next thing, you know, my last question, well, actually second to last question. You know, nobody goes without hardship, you know, and when we're in this world where we're so wrapped up in ourselves and we're going through our own hardship, I think sometimes it's hard for people to understand. And it's so easy for us to turn around and say, you know, oh, I'm busy, I don't have time. And people to take it so personal. And I do believe I understand why that happens, but I do sometimes wish that we lived in a more understanding world. And when something like that happened, we could be understanding that somebody else might be going through that. So instead of taking it personal, trying to kind of motivate them to find their happiness, and, you know, just lend your services if you need them, you know. And I think that that's very important. And I was wondering if there's any hardship that you're going through, or hardship that you would like to share that you've gone through, that, like, maybe you kind of found yourself in a weird place that, you know, kind of actually showed you who your real friends were, and also helped you get to a place where you felt like you were a better, stronger, better you.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of toxicity in my life. It brought me down, but what I learned was that these toxic people don't deserve my time, and that I have people in my life that are worth my time and every part of me.
Yeah.
Like, they deserve my heart, my kindness, and then anything they need.
Yeah.
Like, those are my real friends. I've had toxic friends who have given me insecurities, or like
Brought you down in some way.
brought me down in some kind of way, and it was not okay. So
Yeah.
I dropped them, and now I have the greatest friends ever.
Yeah.
And I couldn't ask for anything better. I have my best friend Zach, I have my friend Patrick, I have my friend Gabby and Joey. Like, they're all such great people.
Yeah.
And they're only building me up and not bringing me down.
I love that. I'm a quote fanatic. Have you ever heard the quote, why do I have to go through troubled waters? And the answer is, because your enemies can't swim. And
Absolutely.
And that's really what it is that, you know, it sucks going through troubled waters, and it's, nobody wants to go through them, but we need to. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's honestly one of the reasons why I wanted to interview and have you here. Oh my gosh, I wish I should have tissues. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you here was because I know that you're a positive person, and you exude this positive energy through I see it online and stuff like that. And you know, I would love to have you come to shows too. I'd love to see you around more often. I definitely have to invite you out more.
I would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And about what you said before about a more understanding world, like you mentioned that when people don't have time for other people will happen to get offended. Mm-hmm. That is not me, actually. What happens is, I understand that people have lives, people have other friends,
Yeah.
people have jobs, people have children, people have husbands and wives. Like, and people can be busy, and you don't know what's going on in their life. They could have a family member in the hospital. They could be rushing their pet to the vet.
Yeah.
Their child could be extremely sick and is needing medical attention.
Yeah.
You don't know what someone's going through.
It's true.
So I have a fantastic friend. Her name is Lily, and she has a 5-year-old son. I might have butchered the age, but let's hope I didn't. She has a 5-year-old son with autism and was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow. My
And
heart goes out.
No one thought he was going to make it, but this kid fought through. He's beaten the cancer, and he is living his life. And he's going to grow to be such a wonderful man.
Oh, that's an amazing turnout.
I don't hear from her from like a few weeks at a time. Do I get offended? Absolutely not, because I understand she has that child, and that child needs her more than anything.
Yeah. And hand in hand with what you were saying there too, sometimes too we get so caught up in that world that we also find it grounds to excuse on why we treat people bad.
Right.
And that's where we can avoid that, is just understanding. This is my biggest motto, is we can find reasons to keep the situation bitter, or we can find reasons to make the situation better.
Absolutely.
And having that understanding, that optimism, and letting the negative come to you, not assuming the worst. If you need to do that to make a backbone, but hoping for the best and act on that, always acting on the hope for the best. I think that makes a big difference. And sometimes we forget that. We'll get, oh, well, they don't treat me well, so, my mom yells at me that way, so they should get over it because I'm not even half as bad. And just trying to ground ourselves, like we were talking before, and realize that we're all human and we're all trying to do the best we can with the cards we have.
Absolutely.
And if we could be more understanding and more caring and loving and the concept of giving, I think people sometimes mission match what that is, but giving can just be as simple as a smile, as simple as space, giving absolutely nothing. And it's good that you understand that, and I love that you have that in you to be able to, give your best and understand that, you go through your stuff and they're going through their stuff, and as long as everybody is respectful and treats each other with kindness and love, who cares?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
And we absolutely need a world where, like you said, where more love is given, where people care for each other, because what I usually love to say is that a hug is nature's medicine.
Yes.
And you don't realize how much life you could give into a person who needs that hug.
Yes. Oh my gosh, if it wasn't coronavirus, I'd give you a hug right now. And I will openly say, I tell my boyfriend all the time, I'm like, when I'm really, really bad and I'm not listening, don't say anything to me, just give me a hug and it will ground me. I'll realize immediately, all right, I get it. He's telling me I'm not listening, And so I love hugs. I feel you on that.
Me too. I could hug all day.
And then we kind of answered this earlier, but motivation. I was going to ask you, what is the main thing that motivates you? Would you say, if you could pinpoint one thing that you would wake up in the day and think about and go, let's do this, what would you say that would be?
Can it be a person?
It can be anything. So a person, a thing, a feeling, a smell. It could be whatever inspires you.
Honestly, there was this one trans girl I've been watching on YouTube since I was 14.
Oh, wow.
And her name is Eden Estrada. She goes by Eden the Doll. And she was just one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. And it wasn't that I wanted to look like her, it's that I wanted to be like her.
Aww.
She was a model. She was she had everything done for her transition that made her happy.
Aww.
And I was like, I'm gonna get to that point one day where I'll have a rockin' body, a pretty face, and everything just like her.
She made the goals realistic.
Absolutely.
Because we have these feelings in us from birth, in my opinion, on what makes us feel good. And it's only until growing and learning from others that we begin to learn to put it in words.
Absolutely.
And I totally get that. It sounds like this person was the person who put it into words for you and made you realize, that's what I want, and this is what I'm going to aim for.
The second I saw her, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was just like, this woman isn't my goals to look like, but to be like. I want to be a model like her, and I want to really get in my transition and really make myself happy just like her.
Wow.
And I've been on hormones for 2 years. I had my first surgery to shave down my Adam's apple.
Yeah, you did go through that. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh
And
my
I've
gosh.
never felt so happy in my life.
Oh,
Like
yay.
this was everything I've ever wanted, and I feel like Eden because I'm feeling myself. I'm happy, and I'm on a photo shoot right now doing an interview.
Isn't that awesome?
It's a start to what I want to be, a model.
I love it. I love it. And you know what's cool? You'll have this forever as some type of, something to show people if you ever go anywhere, you know?
Absolutely.
And you're rocking it. The look, I saw the photos from the photo shoot. You look amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you again.
Of course.
And
Thank
then-
you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Of course.
I'm Nikki Beer, and I'm human.
Hey, I'm Wade. I'm a transformation coach. I got started as a personal trainer in 2007, and I'm basically passionate about helping people live their best lives through consolidating their own choices to make momentum that brings them toward the life they want to live, in the gym and out of the gym.
Awesome.
Thank you for coaching that out of me.
Yeah, that's okay. That's awesome. Because it's hard to talk about yourself. So, my first question. Everybody has things that they strive for that makes them a stronger person and keeps them going. And I was just wondering what makes you tick.
It's probably sounds a little cliche, but I think back into times that kind of sucked, and you think about wishing that there was somebody there to help you get through it, and thinking about how maybe it would have been easier then to go through that period of time if you just knew that things were going to be okay and that you could just get to the other end of it. So, I mean, eventually that probably drove me into what I do here today, whether that's personal training or coaching or bringing entertainment to people, bringing high quality experiences to make them happy and make them laugh, or even self-education that I've gotten into over these years. They're all sort of built on that central driver. They're all built on that central driver, that central motivator, and that motivation is to just help people get the best life that they can live through their own choices. I basically feel that inspiring people in some of the ways that I've sort of discovered throughout my life is the greatest calling, and it even is so inspiring to me that it calls me into an unorthodox path where I have to do loads of things on any given week just to make sure that I'm developing in the categories.
Yeah.
So it started as personal training. Personal training teaches me that if I just put in proactive efforts and choices protected by action itself, it leads in a certain direction. And it might not have been the direction that I was going to head if I wasn't signing up for a lifestyle like that.
Yeah.
So I know what it's like to spend my life like looking for the weekends to just like forget about whatever's going on. But personal training has taught me a total reversal of that.
Yeah.
Where I feel such intensity toward the proactive stuff that it makes a ladder out of itself. And I've sort of tried to apply that to other categories like online self-education.
Yeah.
It's identical. Our studying and our academic and intellectual practice works exactly like working our muscles does.
Yeah. I
So
like that.
these sorts of things have really illuminated a path, I think. It's like almost like free will and destiny align to be a super inspiring combination.
I like that. And I like how a lot of it is that, living for the healthier side of it and understanding that like exercising has been the one thing to mentally get you into a stronger place where you can achieve the things that you want to achieve. I'm trying to get there. And like, as you've inspired me in so many ways, and that's one of the reasons why I should be here. And, your ability to just mentally withstand all the like hardships of trying to be physical on top of mixing it in with family and friends and work and everything else in between. It's like I can't make an excuse not to get up at 6 a.m. and go take a walk or go take a run at 7, 8 in the morning when I first wake up, because it's like, there's people out there that do 3 a.m,
Totally.
and they're going to bed at like 12 at night, and I'm going to bed at like 10 because that's
Absolutely.
my bedtime.
You're on fire. You're doing amazing.
Yeah, and then I appreciate you as a person, always inspiring and uplifting people, and that's like one of the biggest reasons why I asked you to come and be on the episode.
I'm absolutely honored. Super hyped about all of your new big moves too.
The world that we live in is so chaotic, it's so hectic, and we have so many things being thrown at us on what we would like and what will make us feel good and what we should be doing and how we should be living, that, sometimes it's hard to find the right inspiration and to go through the motions of everything and not get distracted by things that look really nice or might seem like a good idea in the moment. But in the long run, you realize it's not really who you want to be, or it's not exactly the goal that you're aiming for. So, you know, in those moments, what keeps you grounded and makes you stay on the path of, this is who I want to be, this is what's going to make me happy in the long run, and this is what I need now, you know, and not get swept away by all the madness of the world today.
Well, there's probably, I can think of 2 or 3 answers.
Yeah.
And they're best worked on some combination of all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Number 1 is gratitude. Because gratitude is like a spiritual version of taking inventory for what you've already got going on right now, just to even consider the next few exercises.
I like that.
So right off the bat, it locks us up from some of the worst depression and anxiety vulnerabilities that we might have from the same information. This is neutral information until we react to it. And the second we react to it, lack of gratitude will make you panting like a starving dog.
Yeah.
Every single time. And then you end up beating yourself into getting stuff done rather than allowing there to be some powerful magnet that pulls you to even do the next exercises.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like the wind that the kite needs is coming from the gratitude. Once we can apply that exercise number 1, our second exercise is probably like an alignment exercise. In an alignment exercise, we're looking to break down some of our core desires. So like, at surface, it probably sounds like I want to lose 25 pounds. It's not about that. That's not eligible. Sometimes we're talking about SMART goals. This is not where we're looking for that. We're looking for something that's more like a fuzzy goal, actually. We're looking for like, I want to lose 20 pounds so that I can spend more time with my children and not die of heart disease.
Yeah.
I'm looking to go and practice making music, recording and singing and dancing all in tandem and live that way for this specific, this bigger reason, which is that I want to make an impact to others or prove to myself that I could do it. Lists of core motivational beliefs that drive the whole process at a deeper level. So like as a personal trainer, we're looking for the specific and the tangible. As you being your own spiritual coach, why life coaches have a job, you're actually not looking for what the personal trainer is looking for. Personal trainer needs measurable, objective, knock on the world information, because it's the only way we can get where you want to get physically in terms of the body. But in terms of the mind, we have to think of something that's a deeper level of core motivational driver, because once we've got the gratitude to start our wind in our kite, the fabric of that kite is going to come from some meshwork of you knowing in some fuzzy way what you want. Knowing what you want is the only way that your self-sabotage is no longer more powerful than your self-development.
Yes.
Your self-development has to be drawing on something. Otherwise, the kite's just like random plastic bags. The wind is tearing them up. You can be really grateful, yes, for everything that's allowing you to go and pursue your hobby, but you also have a chosen second hobby. The second exercise is, I like to call it a victory grid. It's a meshwork of goals, kind of like how philosophers make axioms. If they're all true, then we can explain some piece of the universe. If they're all true. And so we have victory grids where we say this network of goals can be acted upon. And if they're all true, just like a philosophical axiom about all of human existence, when I look at my own life with a magnifying glass, it's so much easier to create certainty like that. Rather than generalizing for all this stuff that there's all these things I can't possibly know. But if I zone it in, a victory grid is an accessible second exercise that lets me gain alignment. Because by the end of it, I'm no longer divided running in 99 directions. Like it could be something like alcohol, or even it could be a whole bunch of productive things. You could actually have done that exercise the right way, and your motivational gratitude might still push you in an unguided way. So I
know, like I sometimes overwhelm myself with too many projects at once and too many things at once, and that's where I'm being productive. But you're not going to necessarily be productive if you're not giving your best to everything because you're overwhelmed by it.
And it's hard because I have a company now, and it's in its idea phase, and it's created to help people have multiple goals at once and to get those goals into achievements, but by having fun in the process. And it's called RPG games built around video games. And the number one thing that we have to do is we do 2 exercises with stars. First is the North Star exercise. The North Star exercise is built for 3 to 5 major goals. No more than that. And you have 3 to 5 major goals that you take with all the seriousness of your heart, mind, and soul. Otherwise, it was never on that list. Your North Star technique gives you 3 to 5 of the most burning in your heart and soul goals that you can create for yourself. And they then exist as your top of the platform. It's our job as coaches to take that into 5 towers, if you will, and to break those towers into the micro steps that they would be in order to bring you closer to achieving those major 5 goals. So we actually take the goals, which is a sensitive subject for people. People have a funny relationship with goals because we always fail a goal or two. It's never like I did it perfectly again for the 99th time. We are always bound to fail some of these goals. It's probably relevant to say that whole, if you aim for the sky, you'll still hit the clouds sort of thing at this this point, because you got to have a lovable relationship with failing in the first place, because otherwise goals are going to feel like they're going to hurt way more than they should have when they don't all go your way.
Yeah.
So that's all actually built in, like our filter one, if you will. We're getting the best goals possible from somebody who's got multiple goals at once, who wants to take their personal development and put it into the same level of clarity that a personal trainer would for your workout ideas. That first layer gives us a whole meshwork of the goals, kind of like I was saying before, a victory grid. All of these things that, if they are true, you will lose the weight or you will achieve your goal.
Yeah.
We turn them into games based on video games.
That's fun.
We turn them into games so that your real 12-week period of time, applying your effort, your choices, and your actions all towards these things, they create the game itself.
That's
and you can play with like up to 12 players for our first edition.
That's really cool.
So,
and that's a creative way to get people involved, especially since nowadays everything is very like visual and it's very hands-on and learning how to, a lot of things are technology driven and stuff. So that's actually a really fun way to kind of keep up with the times and find a different way to start getting people involved on self-love and self-care.
And it's true too that we have a lot more to do with it now, because if we were to do something like this in like this 80s, 70s, 60s or something earlier, not only are we only working with games like Pac-Man, we also have goals that probably look a lot more the same, like you want to climb up in Chase Bank or something like that as your only job. But in today's world with entrepreneurs and more interest in personal development, more interest in growth and development, with all of these things becoming more interesting to people, we're realizing that if we think about something like this as something that can be spoken about, thought about, felt, and communicated amongst each other, we actually could share the process of growth.
Yeah.
Growth is no longer vague and obscure, and we hate it, and we hate goals, and we hate the things that bring us towards these achievements, but we actually share them, and we consider them to be something that is fun and can be played similar to a game, because you can easily max out with and there's no maxing out, but you could play 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000 hours on some video games and have a perfectly good time with your friends online for years, and then get to the end of the time where you no longer are interested in that game, and you look back and you're like, wow, if I brought that work ethic into so many other fields, I might just be a pretty exceptional Wall Street share trader, or music producer.
Yeah.
If 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 hours it's a lot.
Yeah.
We end up having put a whole bunch into it that could yield so much benefit in so many other categories, and I think that that's what brings a lot of us to have some level of interest and curiosity in personal development that we didn't always have. We're a lucky society.
Yeah, we got a lot of tools at our fingertips. It's all about knowing how to use them and being wise about the way we use them. And like you said, being appreciative of having it.
Totally.
So the next question kind of goes into the fact that, everybody has hardships. And, I find that in this world, we tend to, when we're going through our own stuff, it's hard to see other people and see what they're going through. And it's very easy to say, I don't have time. I don't have time for that right now. And I think that people tend to take it very personally and get upset over that. But I actually think that if people took more time to take care of themselves and didn't take it personally, but actually just kind of supported them and let them know that they were there if they needed them, I think a lot of us would be in a better place, because we'd be focusing less on what they're not doing for us and what we want to be involved in their lives and all these things like that. And we can focus more on our own lives. Because I think that sometimes that's the universe saying it's your turn to focus on you. I wanted to know if there was any type of hardship that you had went through or anything that you're going through right now that you'd like to speak about that would explain, how you kind of got to this point of where you're at a higher thinking and you're confident. It made you become a better, stronger person. It built you up to be the person that you're trying to be. Is there anything in your life that kind of pushed you? And it doesn't, when I say hardship too, it doesn't have to be something negative either, So, just anything that was like a battle for you to get past to become the person that you are today.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot to that. That was a great question. A lot of facets, a lot of inspirational sparks on that question. So I think there's a few things there that all sort of affect and push me in from one direction or another. One of them is kind of like how lucky I am to even exist at all, which everybody can say one way or another, because it was very improbable for any of us to be here any given day on any given moment. It's sort of, we certainly can't take credit for existing on this universe, because that was kind of a luck of draw.
Yeah.
And my family started off here in New York, Nesconset, New York, and before I was born, brought the party down to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee to raise a family. Well, actually, I had four or 5 years here, but before I started school or anything like that, I went to Tennessee. And so that was just enough time to go to Tennessee and be sort of outside cast, a little bit in my own mind, though, a lot too, but outside cast as a New York guy.
Yeah.
I'm like a New York 4-year-old,
Yeah.
like a New York baby. It started it off that way, so it's like a story for like a town to sort of circulate that way. And by the time that I was done, because like a divorce and stuff like that, by the time that I was done in Tennessee and came back, it was just where primary school was over, and now I would go to high school right here.
Wow,
and it was like the perfect year for everybody to be like, oh, so what primary school did you go to? It's 7th grade now. And I'd be like, Pigeon Forge Primary School.
Yeah.
Like, what the
fun.
fuck? So now I'm like an outsider again. I'm like, again starting off in the status of outsider. All of my best friends and stuff like that. It's a total, I didn't really talk to them or anything like that.
Yeah.
I guess the world now with social media probably would have been easier at the time, but a few years of just like not doing that. And eventually came to Suffolk. Eventually went to be an outsider again before high school even ended. And I went with a best buddy of mine, really a tremendous guy, awesome drummer who started me off in music. And
Nice.
it was also when I found personal training. So this is like 2007.
Nice.
So I went from the typical sort of my hobbies can get me killed sort of recreation. Alcohol is certainly included, you know. This sort of thing is like so easy to get into when I didn't have any sort of greater semblance of what the universe is and how lucky I was to be here.
Okay.
It's just like the weekends here it goes, right?
Yeah.
Let's just spend money and
YOLO.
go get drunk as heck. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So at 17, I was like really, really lucky to get through the initial interview process at the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Well, NASM let me in to get us into Town Sports International, New York Sports Club in Port Jefferson Station. And I found personal training. And personal training was just in little glimpses gave me the opportunity to recognize such a formal structure of what I already loved from the gym.
Yeah.
I was able to see like how the growth like develops that way. And then the other end, my buddy Mike got me into music when he just was such a great drummer. I remember going into his house one day because we were just like the only friends that would come out here from New Hyde Park. We were the only ones that would go venture to Suffolk. So for a while there, it was just like me and my buddy chilling all the time. And he's like, I'm gonna get into drumming. And I'm like, no way, dude. And I go into, I just got to his house one day and I go inside and he's drumming Lamb of God. And it sounded so good. And I recognized he had an electric drum set, so I couldn't hear the track, but I heard the drums. And I was like, he is drumming Laid to Rest Lamb of God right now. This sounds so good.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I'm not even gonna admit to him how good he was that time.
Yeah.
And eventually I got into a band. There was bands actually called Devoid of Context. I'm wearing a Devoid of Context shirt right now, years later. But one of the hardest things and the darkest things, besides the moving and stuff like that and being an outsider and starting over again things was, Mike actually died.
Oh, wow.
And when Mike
My
died,
condolences.
completely sucked, for everybody. He was like an awesome, tremendous, incredible guy, incredible person. And I always thought to myself about how much specialness that sort of person brought into the universe right there while the time that he was alive.
My condolences.
It's, yeah.
I think
we
it's
lose people
definitely fair to say a moment of silence. What was this gentleman's name again?
Michael Joseph Kanicki.
Michael Joseph Kinnicky. A moment of silence for him.
And that was really one of the harder things ever, It was a very, very dark period of time where it doesn't feel real for quite some time, and I probably suppressed that to some degree. I was just like, I'm gonna maybe even like hide heavy in my personal development, self-education sort of thing, because it's like, I later learned this reference to something in psychology, but I didn't know about it. And what it is called the locus of control. And if our locus of control is shifted away from us, we're blaming the universe for everything.
Yeah.
We're not understanding how our life is unfolding.
Yes.
It sucks horribly when somebody dies or something like that. It rips your heart out and you're like, I'm still fixated on a perspective of these things that I can't control.
Yeah.
And so when we shift our locus of control inward, our locus of control gets closer to our center, literally in our center of thinking where we make decisions. And when our locus of control is shifted closest to us, that's where we gain this category of ability to alter our life at all.
And in this type of situation, I feel like it's the difference between, mourning their death and celebrating their life.
You're right.
You're
You're totally
true.
right.
Yeah.
Because they would never want us. You're right. It's true. Those first few years, we spend our time and energy doing things they would never want us to do.
Exactly, and that's I always say this is a little motto I live by, and it's that spirit is nothing without consciousness. Your spirit cannot thrive without consciousness. Everyone focuses so hard on trying to find their spirit and getting their spirit to thrive and being spiritual that they forget that there needs to be a consciousness behind it. It's not just about being spiritual. It's not just about yoga. It's not just about, finding a higher place. It's about having a consciousness of who you are and why you're here, and not what someone else thinks you're here for, and not what the world is trying to tell you you're here for, but actually feeling the signs and understanding them, and consciously taking those signs to put them towards what you want to be. Because so many people forget that it is us. We are the only ones who are going to create our futures. We are the only ones who are going to make tomorrow. There are things that we will need help with. There are things that we will appreciate leaning back on and having that backbone. But the reality is, none of it's ever going to happen unless you make that initiative.
It's true.
And I think that you're that type of person. I think you're someone who really motivates people to just take that initiative. I think you're somebody who motivates himself to take that initiative. And I think that, like, it's very important for people to understand that, you know, action is nothing without consciousness. Consciousness is nothing without action. And you can't develop your spirit without developing both.
It's true.
You need to be able to grow mentally while growing physically, and I think that it's very important that people get that message. And, like, leading on to my last question, because this is a perfect bridge over to it, what is the one thing that you would say would motivate you? Like, you wake up in the morning and you think about it and you're like, that's it. You think about it and you're like, that's it. That's what I want. That's where I'm going to wake up and life is worth it.
I still had Kaniki's death in my heart, and I sort of fell back into, because when you're doing this personal development stuff, you can crash into depression really, really fast if you lose access to what we're agreeing on in this conversation, and I am getting there. But if you lose access to this, you can snap into depression and anxiety really, really fast, because you've got so much hope and faith built around the idea that your discipline's going to carry you through doing the next few things.
Yeah.
So just a few mistakes, and that whole equation gets thrown off.
And a lot of it is how you connotate to yourself, in my opinion, when that happens. Because it's not that happens. It's that when it happens, we connotate it to a negative point of view. So instead of saying, well, at least I tried, we're like, oh, we didn't do it.
Yeah, it can feed the wrong part. It can even feed, like in this case, hopelessness. And immediately that can become so hopeless because some of those goals were built on top of, I will do A, and then I will do B, and then I will do C, and my consciousness is to follow this plan to get there. And then it snaps away. And
that's that consciousness with action, because realize that you took that action and it didn't work. So if you can get to the point where you tap in consciously that was not meant to be, and that's why it didn't work, and you're going to find something that's either better or was meant to be, or it will, if it truly is meant to be, it'll happen just at a different time where maybe you're more ready for it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
True.
So when you look at it in that case, you know, you always have to stay positive. You always have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that it's a good way to motivate yourself and to stay positive and look forward is to look at your past and see what you've overcome and say to yourself, you know what, tomorrow's just going to be better, or it's another day or whatever, but I'm still here.
Hi, I'm Wade, and I'm human.
We're opposites, so we're always opening our mind to new mindsets. Can't get much better than this. So when the beat drops in my heart, I can't help it. I begin to start my bliss angel robot dance.